It all starts with our protagonist running to school. He always likes to see a certain person every morning. This girl is just an acquaintance, but even before entering the court, he ends up getting hit right in the face with a ball. Concerned, the guy who hit him explains that he was just practicing his throws. Running his hand through the boy's hair, he gets all embarrassed but assures that everything is fine. Handing over a Kit Kat, the player apologizes, and without thinking much, Taiki accepts the gift. It then introduces Imi High School, a private school renowned for its sports tradition. After finishing elementary school, Taiki now trains with the high school badminton team. The training sessions are always in the morning, and he tries to arrive before everyone else, but Shinatsu Kano from the girls' basketball team is always there first. Even in the cold air of that city, she never stops shooting the ball, and Shinatsu is precisely the girl Taiki is in love with. Physical education day at that school is a real mess, with numerous groups scattered around the courtyard. Taiki finds himself imagining what it would be like to marry Shinatsu. Being able to see her every morning upon waking would be like a dream. His friend knows he barely has the courage to ask her out, let alone marry the most popular girl in school. Shinatsu is the star of the basketball team, charismatic and talented, with everything to shine. She is admired both inside and outside of school. Taiki, on the other hand, is completely unlucky, without much prominence in badminton. He is far from being someone popular, just another ordinary student who plays sports out of passion. While she always appears in the tournament newspapers, he barely manages to get past the first round. They are on completely different levels. Even so, Taiki's only chance to get close to her is during practice. Besides, his mother also played on the school's basketball team, which serves as an excuse to be there. Kyo, his friend, understands his feelings but tries to make him see reality. He needs to at least advance one round and stop being eliminated right away. Getting her to remember his name would already be progress, maybe even getting her contact. When he least expects it, a girl appears behind him. Taiki thought she was still in middle school, but she recently entered high school with them. She grew 7 centimeters but is still less than 1 meter and 50 centimeters tall. She starts teasing him, mocking his height. After all, he barely reaches 1 meter and 70 centimeters. The two seem like children fighting, which amuses those watching. Curious, Taiki asks what makes girls happy in a relationship. Excited, the girl replies that, first of all, the guy can't be a fool. He needs to seem calm and trustworthy. And of course, having a bit of physical presence helps. Taiki regrets having asked Hina for love advice. Her taste is quite peculiar. The next day, still frustrated, Taiki thinks he shouldn't have listened to Hina. But then, to his surprise, Shinatsu appears right in front of him even before the school opens. Each passing day, he is more impressed by her beauty. If he doesn't speak to his great love now, he might never have another chance. 1,000 thoughts run through his mind. Thank her for the chocolate he hasn't eaten yet, or maybe ask what she is reading. However, noticing the basketball uniform, he decides to stay silent. Suddenly, Shinatsu sneezes, and Taiki, concerned, offers her his scarf and a hot tea to warm her up. He even offers to lend a pair of gloves. He realizes he got a bit too excited, but she seems curious about what else he has in his backpack. Laughing, Shinatsu enjoys the situation until she sneezes again. She returns the scarf, saying she's fine, and asks him to keep warm too, so he doesn't get sick. And Taiki's mind is past this poker size you, or put size Zatan. It seems like a couple scene, as if she were adjusting her husband's tie before he left. Later that day, he notices that Shinatsu has cold hands. When the school security guard appears, she smiles and tells him not to catch a cold. Taiki, surprised, wants to know how she knows his name. She just replies that it's a secret, challenging him to guess. He is delighted to realize that she always knew who he was, and even compliments his mother because of the embroidered scarf. Even embarrassed, Taiki feels his heart race. After training for hours, he's radiant just because she remembered his name. Then a persona di lori sa mamma. Hearing her say it was more exciting than I imagined. Now his goal is clear. Reach the second round of the next tournament and who knows, get her number. Later, as he leaves the bathroom, Taiki sees Shinatsu talking with the basketball team's coach. Rima appears behind him, asking what's going on, and he tries to play it off, saying it's nothing much. She realizes how much Taiki really likes Shinatsu, but wishes he would look around a bit too. However, on another day, Taiki sees Shinatsu walking with another boy and feels his heart tighten, even though it was just a joke. At dusk, everyone gets ready to leave, but Taiki notices that the gym is still open. His friend goes home and he decides to stay. There he finds Shinatsu practicing alone until late. When she calls his name again, he can barely hide his joy. She says she is not yet satisfied with her shots and wants to keep practicing. Taiki asks her not to overdo it, but she insists. He watches, certain that basketball is her true passion. Shinatsu shoots and invites Taiki to play with her. He tries, but ends up falling awkwardly and being mercilessly defeated. Even so, she comments that he is fast thanks to badminton. Taiki explains that his mother played basketball, and that he used to play with her when he was little. Curious, Shinatsu says that her mother also played and did the same with her. At that moment, Taiki is sure it could only be destiny. She asks if he ever thought about playing basketball, but Taiki replies that he prefers individual sports. He likes the feeling of being alone on the court, with all the responsibility on him. Winning or losing depends only on him, and that adrenaline is what motivates him. But Shinatsu thinks he doesn't do it out of masochism, but out of dedication. And now blushing, she finally understands why Taiki tries so hard. Taiki asks why she kept practicing even after classes ended. A year and a half ago, there wouldn't have been practice that day, but since he lived near the school, he decided to stop by to pick up his things. It was then that he saw Shinatsu crying alone in the gym, and from that moment on, he began to see her differently. They said she couldn't qualify for the national championship, and he knew how painful that must have been. Even so, she remained determined, and seeing her persist even when devastated, made Taiki decide to fight with the same strength for his own dreams. It was then that he realized he had fallen in love with Shinatsu. He notices her embarrassed look, and before he could say anything, the security guard appears, saying it's time to go home. Pakyu. Shinatsu agrees and gets ready to leave. Taiki remembers when he saw her crying, the ball slipping from her hands, and they ended up staring at each other in silence for a few seconds. She thanks him, and he, a bit embarrassed, says it was nothing. This time, when touching her hand, Taiki notices it's warmer than the last time. The next morning, Taiki wakes up a little later. His mother had already left breakfast ready on the table. While eating, he notices that Shinatsu appears in the championship headlines. His mother asks if he knows the girl, and comments that years ago, she was very good friends with Shinatsu's mother. They played together on the school basketball team. Excited, Taiki realizes he now has a good reason to get closer to her. His mother mentions that she still occasionally talks with her old friend, but it's a shame because Shinatsu's family is moving to another country in March. The news hits Taiki like a bucket of cold water. He then understands why the teacher is talking to her and runs to the school. On the way, he wonders if he will really let this happen without doing anything. Every day she is the first to arrive and the last to leave. She trains more than anyone else. The frustration she felt from losing the championship is something he could never explain. All that effort and emotion could not be in vain. When he arrives at the gym, he sees Shinatsu and calls her. She asks what's going on, and Taiki, nervous, asks her to participate in the regional championship. He says he learned from her the importance of working hard and not giving up, even after defeats. He wants her to never abandon her dreams, even if things get out of control or if she needs to move to another country. But Shinatsu explains that it's her family who is going to move. She will stay in Japan, staying at an acquaintance's house. Taiki is left speechless, trying to hide his relief. She also seems happy, although she knows it will be difficult to be away from her parents. Remembering the time she left the middle school team, Shinatsu comments on how much she wanted to reach the national championship and thanks Taiki for inspiring her to continue. He, somewhat confused, says he didn't do anything special. She laughs and asks to play together again someday. The next day, Taiki wakes up remembering the situation and feels embarrassed. Luckily, it's Sunday and he doesn't have to face Shinatsu. For the first time, he wished not to run into her so soon, but to his surprise, she is at his house. His mother announces that Shinatsu will start living with them for a while and asks Taiki to take good care of her. The girl thanks everyone for their hospitality and gives a welcome gift. The family is delighted. The grandfather even comments that she looks like Taiki's grandmother when she was young. The boy can't believe it. Seeing his beloved out of uniform right in front of him is something he couldn't imagine even in his wildest dreams. Helping his mother in the kitchen, he tries to process the fact that he will live for 2 years under the same roof as Shinatsu, and he finds it all insane. Days later, he is excited to have passed the second round of the championship. Living with her already seems like an Olympic-level challenge. Suddenly, Shinatsu opens the bathroom door, saying he can go in now. Pretending to be reading, Taiki notices that she just got out of the shower and looks even more beautiful than usual. Before leaving, she asks him to read her favorite manga, a new release she hasn't had time to read yet. Taiki, cornered, hands over the volume, trying to stay calm. She approaches with a cute smile, saying it's a bit uncomfortable living in someone else's house, even with the parents being friends. She doesn't know the family very well yet, but says it's nice to have someone who trains with her and lends magazines, because it makes her feel more at ease. Hearing this, Taiki thinks that to her, he's just a good colleague, nothing more. Later, while taking a bath, he thinks to himself that he's an idiot for getting carried away by illusions. The next day, he arrives excited for practice, but his friend Kyo warns him not to let the excitement go to his head, especially not to mention that he's living with Shinatsu. If her admirers find out, they might end up wanting to fight him. Even so, Kyo jokes, saying that Taiki is lucky to live with the girl he likes. Kyo also comments that maybe one day they will go out together, but Taiki thinks it's impossible. After seeing her determination, Shinatsu decided to stay in Japan, and Taiki promises himself that he will also reach the national tournament. Kyo is startled by the sudden decision, reminding him that few achieved this in the first year, and the way Taiki plays, it would be almost impossible. But even so, he does not intend to give up. Motivated, Taiki trains tirelessly. He wants to play one more match, test his limits. Kyo and the others notice that now he has a clear goal and will not stop until he achieves it. His dream is the national tournament. Everyone says it's difficult, but Taiki believes that those who trust themselves always find the strength to win. When he returns home, he continues practicing without rest. He knows he needs to work harder than anyone else, and the way things are now, the national tournament still seems like a distant dream, but a dream he is determined to make real. Suddenly, while he was practicing, Shinatsu appears in his room, wanting to know what he was doing. Taiki was watching his own video that someone had recorded. Shinatsu asked to see it, even though he didn't want to show it at all. Found everything extremely embarrassing. Despite that, she likes to follow what he is training. The way Taiki moves impresses Shinatsu. Taiki knows he is still moving too slowly. You need to read the plays better and stop chasing the shuttlecock like crazy. She is not going to the national tournament. Embarrassed, Taiki intended to tell this only after making some progress. Shinatsu notices. Shouldn't that question come after everything she had said? Taiki gathers courage and admits that he is indeed going to compete in the national tournament. He keeps his head down and tries to understand why he always acts like an idiot in front of the person he loves. Suddenly, she runs off and returns shortly after. She hands over the bracelet she made when she decided to stay in Japan. He thinks that this way, his dedication becomes more genuine. He says that if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to wear it. Before she finishes the sentence, Taiki fastens the bracelet on his own foot, but she removes it and asks him not to do that. It might even hinder circulation. Then she ties the knot and promises that she will also reach the national tournament. Now the two are mashing, and she just asks him not to get too attached to the bracelet she gave. Now Taiki needs to keep training until his foot falls off, getting anxious at the thought that if he continues like this, he will end up completely falling for her. Taiki decides to do 30 sit-ups whenever a distracting thought arises. The next day, he leaves home a little earlier to help the newcomers. As he leaves the place, he notices that they both look like newlyweds. The classmate does sit-ups and the national qualifiers are approaching, and Taiki needs to win to be able to confess to Shinatsu. When asked if something happened between him and Shinatsu, he gets tense. She insists all the time, and Taiki knows he can't reveal that they live together. He needs to keep it hidden. When he least expects it, Shinatsu appears in front of him handing over a letter. Terrified, he tries to disguise it as quickly as he can. As he walks away from the place, Taiki thinks he was too harsh with her and needs to apologize. His friend agrees that he was an idiot and should have just told her to keep it a secret that they live together. If he starts avoiding her, it will become evident that he doesn't like sharing the space with her, creating an awkward atmosphere between them. In the worst case scenario, she might think he doesn't want anything with her, even though it's the opposite. He can't just bow his head and let her imagine that. When he least expects it, one of the leaders appears asking for help to get the chairs for next week's orientation. The girls show up and ask for help with the chairs too. He tries to sneak away, but ends up being held back to help. Picking up a chair, he realizes he needs to tell her what's going on. Taiki asks him to carry one more, but she ends up treating the boy quite harshly. Even so, he would like to ask a question. Wants to know if she would like to have a boyfriend to be together. Shinatsu says her only focus right now is basketball, becoming restless. Taiki already imagined that would be the answer, so he's not surprised. When handing over the chair, the teacher comments that Taiki's moves are much stronger than before and is praising the boy to everyone. If he continues like this, he could compete at the high school level. He believes Taiki can join the team before the national qualifiers. Excited, Taiki was going to tell Shinatsu, but she turned her back and Rina thinks she hates him. Curiously, she thinks they match well and that this is intensifying. Everyone notices that Taiki is much more dedicated than before, but his mind is in chaos. He just wanted no one to find out that they live together, and now he is in a complicated situation. Suddenly, Shinatsu falls to the ground and asks to see what is happening. He thinks it's better not to say anything, but the two go to talk to the girl and ask if everything is okay. She replies that it is. Later, he starts focusing on defeating Haruo, an experienced veteran who had advanced quite a bit in the prefecture's qualifiers the previous year, thanks to his enormous willpower. During an intense training session, he notices that the gallery is completely packed with Rina's TikTok followers, who showed up in droves just to see their queen shine in gymnastics. Later, while walking back home, he ends up meeting Rina, who is going to a chiropractor appointment nearby. Since they are already close to his house, he panics and tries to quickly take her there before she notices Tinatsu arriving. On the way, Rina comments on how she strictly controls her diet to keep her body in shape for rhythmic gymnastics, and Taiki praises her exemplary discipline, making her eyes shine with happiness. She returns the compliment, highlighting his determination, both in badminton and in his efforts to pursue a relationship. At that exact moment, he sees Tinatsu walking alongside Haru, and automatically assumes that the two are having something more. Sai. However, However, Rina says they are probably just friends hanging out, just like the two of them at that moment. Taiki agrees with her at first, but the situation only worsens when he sees them spending even more time together the next day. During practice, Chinatsu asks Taiki if he can go home earlier and open the door for her since she forgot her key. However, at that exact moment, Haru appears and calls her by the nickname Chi. Later, Taiki returns home and throws himself on the floor, telling himself that he will never be close enough to Chinatsu to call her by a nickname like that. When she enters, he tries to avoid her, but Chinatsu stops him and asks if he ran home because he didn't want her waiting outside for too long. At that moment, Taiki realizes he was worrying about the wrong thing. He quickly cheers up and says he ran just because he wanted to do some extra training. Then he goes out for another run, repeating to himself that he will never be able to compete with Haru when it comes to girls, so he will beat him in badminton. The next day, Taiki wins all his matches and promises himself that he won't focus on Haru at all. However, when he sees him talking to Chinatsu, he practically melts inside. Later, Taiki faces Haru and loses the first set terribly. But instead of blaming anyone, he turns the defeat into motivation and a valuable lesson. As he returns for the second set, he remembers the tape that Chinatsu had placed on his ankle, which drives him even more. This time, he engages in an intense battle against Haru, and even losing, Ka says he has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Still, Taiki is furious with himself for all the mistakes he made. Without him knowing, Haru is also frustrated for almost being defeated by a rookie. Later, while walking home, Chinatsu suddenly appears and takes him to a park, where she invites him to play badminton, which surprises him a lot. However, she is terrible at the game, so he helps her with the basics, and his gentle personality, along with comforting words, helps him overcome the defeat. Then, he notices a tag on his bag with her nickname, and Chinatsu explains that this is what all her classmates called her, which makes him relax and feel more at ease. The next day, he is shocked to discover that he will be playing doubles with Haru, which completely ruins his plans to defeat him and win over Chinatsu. At that moment, Haru overhears his conversation with Kyo and starts teasing him about having a crush on Chinatsu, leaving Taiki extremely embarrassed. In the following days, Haru subjects Taiki to an extremely intense training routine. When he notices Taiki slowing down, he says that Chinatsu would never pay attention to a slow player. This motivates him to try even harder until he finally earns Haru's genuine respect. Later, Haru teases Taiki in front of their classmates, including Chinatsu, but the joke ends with a sincere compliment for all his effort. At that moment, Haru receives a message and announces that it's from his girlfriend, completely shocking Taiki. He then thanks Chinatsu for helping him buy makeup for his girl, and Taiki finally realizes that nothing was happening between them. 1 month after Chinatsu's move, Taiki slowly begins to organize his life again and concludes that being in love is undoubtedly one of the best things in the world. At school, Ka remembers that he has a match the next day and asks why he hasn't made any progress with Chinatsu yet. Before he can answer, he receives a message from her saying she took the wrong uniform by mistake, which is a serious problem. Chinatsu invites him to the appropriate room to discreetly exchange them, but upon arriving there, he bumps into Rina and ends up dropping the uniform. Now when she tries to grab it, he says he hasn't washed it all year just to prevent her from seeing the tag with the name. Later, he meets Chinatsu on the rooftop and she starts changing in front of him. In total panic, he decides to watch the door, trying to convince himself it's just nervousness. But the sounds of her changing make his imagination run wild. After she's done, she asks to go ahead while he sits wondering why Chinatsu doesn't see him as someone she could have something more with. On the way back, Rina reminds him to prepare for his first match the next day. Although he seems calm, reality hits him at night. Tomorrow would be a big day, so restless that he loses sleep, he starts practicing his moves in the front yard with total dedication. Masa's Essen. When Chinatsu joins him, she points out that his shirt is inside out. He tries to turn it casually, but notices Chinatsu moving away and apologizes. Chinatsu then comments on his defined abdomen and says that he has become much more muscular since he started training seriously. Taiki is not satisfied with his progress, as he still cannot beat Haru, but Chinatsu tries to cheer him up with encouraging words and reminds him that he still has 2 years to reach his goal. However, he responds sternly that this is not enough and walks away clearly frustrated. The next day, he stays focused and manages to advance to the top 16 in doubles alongside Haru. After that, they meet Haru's former partner, Kishi, who also has feelings for Chinatsu. Kishi had asked Haru to introduce him to her if he managed to beat him in a match, but Haru broke that promise, which left Kishi genuinely furious. When Kishi demands that Haru give him Chinatsu's phone number, Haru responds that he will first have to defeat Taiki in a singles match. Upon returning home, Taiki hears Chinatsu talking with his mother. Chinatsu comments on how Taiki was shaken when she said he still had 2 years left, something that made her reflective. Após antecipar, diz que seu de ama querer de ti. She admits that although it seemed like it was okay to lose, in reality she is worried about the fact that her time in school is ending quickly, as she is older than Taiki. That's why she ended up saying that out of envy. Upon hearing this, Taiki confidently steps in and declares that he will also win his singles matches. Chinatsu then sincerely wishes to be more like him in this aspect. 1 week later, Taiki finally faces Kishi in a singles match, and all of Haru's classmates show up to watch the confrontation. During the game, Ka approaches Chinatsu and comments that Taiki is trying his best to impress her. He adds that if Taiki wins, she should take him out to celebrate. Chinatsu doesn't believe Ka at first, but upon seeing Taiki showing so much excitement and enthusiasm, she finally understands the truth and agrees to take him to an aquarium over the weekend for an outing together. After an intense exchange of points, the match reaches the decisive moment and Taiki secures the victory. At night, all the matches are concluded and he finishes in second place, losing only to Nishida, who is considered the second best player after Haru. Later, Taiki unexpectedly receives a message from Chinatsu asking if he would like to go out the next day, which leaves him completely panicked. Kyo then reveals that he was the one who suggested this to Chinatsu. Saichi chikamin pesteidik sounds. Then, Rina advises him not to ruin his first date in any way before leaving. After spending the entire night nervous, Taiki wakes up late and rushes to the train station, where he finds Chinatsu looking stunning, like a complete meal. They head to the aquarium, while Taiki imagines countless reasons for the invitation, overthinking everything. Over time, he starts to feel more comfortable around her, but admits to himself that he cannot confess his feelings before reaching the nationals. When he decides it's time to leave, Chinatsu suddenly grabs his shoulder and apologizes for saying he still had 2 years, which catches him completely by surprise. She explains that they haven't had the chance to talk since that day and that she wanted to take him out to make up for her insensitive attitude. Taiki feels a bit disappointed as he hoped it would be a real date and not just an apology. He says that she is very thoughtful and that he usually doesn't dwell on this kind of thing, but what surprises him is that she carried this weight for an entire week. Then he sends her a sticker saying she can use it to communicate if she can't find the right words, as he would understand. To his surprise, Chinatsu sends the same sticker immediately, without hesitation. When he asks if it means anything, she says he is a great homem da casa, which irritates him because he wants her to see him as someone she could marry. The next day, Taiki is at a cafe with Kyo, who asks what he would do if he found out that Chinatsu also likes him, leaving Taiki in complete despair. When Rina joins them, Kyo starts talking about the upcoming qualifiers, making Taiki focus completely. Rina asks which schools have the best badminton teams, and Kyo responds that Sadika Kawai is the main favorite, as they won the nationals last year. Taiki tells Rina to focus on her own competition, and she confidently replies that she already has it under control. At that moment, her coach appears accompanied by a journalist who wants to interview her. Rina smiles at Taiki, practically telling him to accept the situation. After the interview, Rina goes to her chiropractor's clinic, where she finds Chinatsu and decides to help her get closer to Taiki. She starts talking about Taiki, mentioning that he once broke his ankle trying to save her from a fall, a great sacrifice. Rina admits she was angry with herself, but emphasizes that Taiki never blamed her and was always kind to her. Without Rina noticing, her plan goes completely wrong, and Chinatsu starts to think that Rina has feelings for Taiki, which makes everything ironically funny. As they leave the clinic, it starts to rain, but Chinatsu hands an extra umbrella to Rina before leaving. Shortly after, the receptionist informs that Chinatsu forgot her cell phone. Rina then runs after her to return it and ends up seeing Chinatsu entering Taiki's residence, which leaves her in total shock. At first, she decides not to interfere, but her curiosity gets the better of her and she shows up demanding explanations. After receiving permission from Chinatsu, Taiki invites Rina to come in, tells the whole truth, and sincerely apologizes for not telling her earlier. Rina is upset that he didn't trust her, but admits she wasn't a great friend either, as she made no effort to bring them together. On the way back, she keeps thinking about all this until she ends up bumping into something, only to realize she had collided with an actual pillar. At school, he discovers that the gym is occupied by the volleyball team, so the others end up cleaning the pool to pass the time. Joining them, Haru comments that smashing is not his only weakness, and that his footwork was terrible in the match against Yusuke. He also asks Taiki if he has made any progress with Chinatsu, but Taiki says he is terrible with girls and can't understand what counts as progress. Haru admits that it's hard to decipher Chinatsu because she's friendly with all the boys, so if she were really interested in him, she would keep a certain distance. After the pool is cleaned, he goes to the storage room and finds Chinatsu. At first, she acts very casually, but when he thanks her for helping him the night before, she suddenly becomes shy and tries to leave. Taiki instinctively holds her hand but starts acting awkwardly and asks where to put the buckets. After telling him where to leave them, Chinatsu joins the cheerleader outside, who starts talking about boys. Shinatsu asks why she doesn't look for a boyfriend, and she replies that she is focused on sports, just like her. As soon as they arrive at the gym, a member of the volleyball team appears crying because she will have to transfer to another school. Inarisi shows gratitude for the people who are allowing Chinatsu to stay with them. That night, the family enjoys a barbecue in the backyard, and Chinatsu finally has the chance to talk with Taki's father. He admits that he was very hesitant to take responsibility for her at first, but Yukiko convinced him, as she has a stronger determination than his. He also says he felt proud when she reached the nationals, and that he will be very happy if she wins everything. At that moment, Taiki appears asking for ice cream, but when they find out it's gone, the man sends them to the store to buy more. After shopping, Taiki gets nervous until he realizes that Chinatsu is also thinking about having ice cream. Then he opens two packages and they eat on their way back home. While they talk, Taiki notices a car speeding and pulls her close. Being so close to him reminds her of the day he got sick. She asks him to forget that moment, admitting she was very careless and assuring it won't happen again. Taiki realizes she just set a boundary, and it hurts him because he thought they were making progress. One day before the start of summer vacation, Rina and Q notice that Taiki seems extremely downcast. Rina assumes he is worried about school assignments, so she invites him to a group study session over the weekend. Later he realizes that Taiki is avoiding Chinatsu. Echimatsin doptois prizei. Then finally, he tells her that he was getting too close. She then set a boundary, and now he doesn't know how to get close again. The next day, Daiki goes to the gym to train, and after that joins Hina and friends for a group study session. When Rina complains about not understanding math, her classmate Ito shows how to solve it. Anta hears some guys commenting that Ito has liked Rina for some time. Later, Rina and Taiki see some girls talking about a festival, and it reminds them of the time they went there with a friend named Saju. Taiki recalls when Seo announced the festival in the classroom and asked everyone to raise their hand if they wanted to go. Isa Keidu. Rina raised her hand enthusiastically and accidentally hit Taiki's face. In the following days, she was so busy with training that she forgot about the event, and when she got there, the fireworks had already started. She thought about leaving, but Taiki suddenly appeared and offered her a candy apple, pais isang si isopata misochiayina. Rina was surprised and asked how he knew she wanted it, and he replied that he saw her staring at it like a hungry dog. In the present, Taiki realizes they haven't gone to the festival since then, so Rina blushes and tells him to go with her this year. At night, while Taiki is doing his homework, Yukiko asks Chinatsu if she wants a yukata for the festival. Taiki imagines her wearing a yukata, and it makes all the blood rush to his southern pole. Kiko also asks him if he already has plans for the festival, and he replies that he is going with friends. The next day, after practice, Haru invites him to train with the university team, and Taiki accepts the invitation. Later, Rina sees him smiling and asks if he is thinking about voluptuous gothic girls, but he replies that he was invited to train with the university team. The practice is on the same day as the festival, but he promises to arrive on time. He then asks who else will go, and Rina suggests he invite Q, although she wished it were just the two of them. Later, Taiki invites Q to the festival, but Q immediately realizes that Rina wanted to go alone with Taiki. Meanwhile, Nina tells Rina to clear up the misunderstanding, but Rina refuses, as she doesn't want to harm her friendship with Taki. Later, she asks Taiki if he would prefer to go with Chinatsu, and Taiki says she would probably refuse, as she is trying to keep her distance. Seeing him struggle to stay strong, Rina offers some words of encouragement while avoiding confessing her own feelings unintentionally. On the weekend, Takaru goes to the university, where he trains with more experienced players. Ryoto is also there, and offers Takuma valuable tips on how to improve. Taiki immediately puts the advice into practice, and notices an improvement in his smashes, which makes Ryoto satisfied. After the training, Kafin is sick so that Taki and Rina can go to the festival alone, which leaves Taiki a bit confused. He arrives there earlier and decides to buy a candy apple for Rina. When she shows up wearing a yukata, Taiki is impressed by how beautiful she looks. Chinatsu is there with her friends and sees Rina and Taiki together, which makes her freeze in place. His last size pieces says. Meanwhile, Rina gets so nervous around Taiki that she steps away to get some snacks. She admits to herself that she dressed up because she wanted Taiki to find her pretty, but at the same time she's afraid of drawing his attention. As they prepare to watch the fireworks, Taiki notices that Rina is unusually quiet for someone who can never stay silent for 2 seconds. When a mosquito bites her, Taiki offers to apply some powder on her neck and notices that she put a lot of effort into her hairstyle. When he compliments her, she thinks he's teasing, but Taiki insists he truly found her charming. At that moment, the fireworks start, and Taiki looks at her again, noticing she seems genuinely happy after the compliment. During the break, Taiki decides to get a drink and sees Chinatsu comforting a girl who got separated from her father. He decides to help her find her mother, unaware that Rina is eagerly waiting for his return to hear more compliments. Meanwhile, Chinatsu meets her friend Karen and introduces her as Haru's girlfriend. When Taiki introduces himself, Karen comments that she has heard a lot about him, and while he thinks this came from Haru, it was actually Chinatsu who talked a lot about him to her friend.